This is the Art Life video blog, day 139, is that? Sorry.
No, it's okay.
This is the Art Life video blog, day 139. I'm Sean Kehr. Welcome, I guess.
I'm Jacob Wolf. Thank you for having me here,
Yeah,
Sean.
absolutely. Thanks for doing this.
I really dig your work.
I'm glad, thank you. I dig it, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't do it. But
It's fun, huh?
It is. It's a good experience.
So, tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a philosophy student, graduate, ongoing student in that. I have been doing art since I was pretty young. I grew up in an art family. My mother's a painter. She went to college for it. I picked a different path when I was actually going for my education, but it's been something that's been a part of our lives all along. She really encouraged us when we were little kids. She eventually turned that into an art therapy mediation kind of job, so we were constantly exposed to it. There were materials all over the house, and constantly seeing her work and stuff. So we grew up with it as part of how we just did things.
Was she an abstract artist as well?
No, she does. She's a watercolor painter, and she does a much more realistic sort of style. I've always really admired her work. I would like to be able to do work like hers, but abstract is just what comes out of me, so that's kind of how I do things. Yeah, so, all throughout high school I drew and whatnot, but for most of my life I've been very convinced that I was terrible, and so I spent a lot of time grappling with my own insecurity about my art. So I did it in private, on my own, and I always enjoyed the process. I really loved doing it. But when it came time to show people the work that I did, or somebody would say, "Oh, what's that you're doing?" I got incredibly self-conscious and was just completely guarded and shut down. And so it's taken a lot of years for me to get to the place where I feel comfortable embracing the mistakes that I make and the things that aren't right according to the images in my head. So that's the major thing that was my roadblock on my way to where I'm at.
When did you go to college?
I graduated in 2011. I started in 2005. I kind of took my time.
Okay.
Well, yeah, with philosophy, it's a really good thing to be doing. It's a good environment to be in. So, for me, taking more time in college meant having the opportunity to really revel in the experience of having so many interesting ideas to work with and so many people to bounce them back and forth off of and new things to hear. So,
right on.
Yeah.
Were you able to continue your art throughout school?
Yeah, to the extent that I was able to just, draw a piece here or there or sit down with my sketchbook. I started during college to do an attempt to do drawing without intention towards the piece, rather than having something that I wanted the piece to be and then waiting to try and find the line that was going to make the face look right or the whatever. Instead, I started trying to just work with having a line go onto paper and then figure out what the next line from there was going to be, rather than having a whole image, a whole design that I was trying to create. And so I did a lot of that, but it was a lot of, little notebook, 5 minutes between class, I would just sit down and draw something out. So I did a lot of that during school. A lot less big pieces, a lot less involved work, because obviously I had a lot going on, Philosophy is a fairly rigorous educational path to be on. Lots of papers to write, lots of stuff that you have to read. So,
did your time in philosophy school or college class change the way you were creating your art?
Absolutely. So, like I said, art was always sort of part of the substrate of just how we lived our lives in my family, and so I never really thought a lot about what I was doing with the art. I felt like it was just something that you did, it was fun, I sort of sat around and doodled. My philosophy training and the time that I spent learning to look at the world in those ways really taught me to take the ideas that I was playing with and explore them in other places. I tend to think that the humanities are all sort of one big lump, that being an artist isn't really that different from being a philosopher in the first place. We're both sort of looking at different perspectives of the world and trying to puzzle out the things that we find fascinating or troubling or otherwise engaging about the world we live in. And it's a way to try and explore that human experience of those things. So doing it with philosophy and doing it with art are two sides of a very similar coin, if not exactly the same process in different medium.
Right on. Very cool.
Thanks.
So after you graduated in 2011?
2011, yeah.
What was your next step?
That's an awfully good question. I had originally planned on going to graduate school, and that didn't end up happening for a variety of reasons, not the least of which was some medical troubles that my partner at the time was having. So I ended up sort of putting that off to the side for a while, and I had a lot of other interests that I engaged with, community-based stuff. I'm very into board games and role-playing games, so I started a club for geeks that got together once a week and was a community outreach sort of for people with social anxiety issues and the like, for folks to come to a new area and have a group of welcoming gamers just waiting for them to pop in and play whatever with us. So I worked on that for a couple of years. Did pretty well with that, not financially exactly, but I feel like we did a lot of good work for a lot of people, and, so we did that for a while. I designed a board game. I sort of just tooled around this and that.
Tell me about your board game.
Well, okay, so it's not a board game. That's just the easiest point of reference
Okay.
for most people. It's actually a collaborative card game. So in the style of, some people might be familiar with Sentinels of the Multiverse. It's sort of like playing Magic the Gathering, except rather than playing against the other people at the table, you're all playing against a central deck of some sort.
Oh, okay, so like the raid decks in the old World of Warcraft trading card game.
Kind of. So basically, the game centers around a group of fantasy heroes stuck in the modern world.
Okay.
So they are like a barbarian who has a day job at an office and has to use his barbarian rage to get past TPS reports. Or the mage who works at McDonald's and has to deal with the overbearing night shift manager. So basically, you're a group of fantasy heroes, and the goal of the game is to get everybody to gaming next week. Right, or at least as many people as you can. So winning constitutes half the members being able to make it to gaming, and losing constitutes more than half not making it. You have individual goals for that, so you might need money or transportation or babysitters or things like that to try and get through all the hurdles of everyday life. But your abilities all come back to the fantasy archetypes. So there's an archer who has a special headshot card that he can play that allows him to eliminate enemies from somebody else's combat. So, yeah, it's
Right
kind
on.
of a fun, munchkin-y sort of laugh.
I would be very interested to chill and play that.
Okay, very
Right
cool.
on. So, all right, I got a little sidetracked.
No,
I got
no
a little
worries.
excited. When did you start producing art to sell?
That would have been this last year. So I would say about 6 months ago, I decided to take the leap from being just someone who was doing some art for myself to pushing myself out into a public view of some sort about my art. After that, it was a little while longer. Mostly what I do right now is Patreon donations. So I receive some donations that way that help pay for the art itself.
I saw your website. I thought that was a really neat idea.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, it just, it's another way to try and get there. So now I'm at the point where I'm, trying to sell work, and I really got here through the process of the emotional journey of pushing myself out into uncomfortable territory with this thing that I didn't feel like I wanted to be seen doing.
Right.
And that led to, okay, now that I'm out here and I'm getting a reasonable response, I'm not, being attacked the way my crazy imagination thought that I would be. Let's try and take it a step further. Let's keep going down that road towards not being afraid to fail in this process. So,
I think that's something that everybody can relate to as well.
I hope so, but philosophy teaches you not to think outside yourself too much, so I don't know what everyone else can relate to or what they can't. I only know what my experience has been, and I hope that it's helpful to other people. I hope that there are people out there who might bump into my work or my page or something and end up going, oh, hey, you know what, here's somebody who was desperately afraid of all of this going on, who decided to just push past it, and they've managed to get through that experience without being harmed, so maybe I can too. That said, it's about what I'm doing. Like, not to sound too crazy selfish, but I have to make my process about me. And anybody that it helps along the way is great, but, it's about me getting out of my own head first.
For sure. So, are you showing in any galleries?
I'm not at the moment. I have some applications out for pieces I'd like to put in places, but so far right now, this is the only gallery I'm in.
So, the best way for people to get a hold of you is?
Through my Patreon page at the moment. That's www.patreon.com/dreaming. I assume there'll be a link somewhere.
Yeah, I'll totally put a link on.
Awesome.
I'm going to share the fuck out of it.
Nice. That's the best way to get in touch with me right now. You can send me a message through there. You can follow my work. I do pretty regular updates as to what's going on. Beyond that, people can, if they get in touch with me, come out, and I'm happy to have open studio time and let people come check out the process and see the stuff in here in this space for what that's worth.
Sweet. What are some of the more recent things that you're working on?
So, most recently I've been really interested in found, upcycled artwork, stuff that reuses materials. Wastefulness is a big issue for me. In a very... Well, I just completely blanked that. In a very personal way, I feel like we live in a very wasteful society. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's probably one of the most unfortunate things is that we've been taught over and over again to just throw things out, to just get rid of that piece. So I like to incorporate as much of that, as much salvaged material, as much found objects into my work as I can. So that's been a big focus lately. To that end, I found a print company that was giving away ink and thought, hey, great, let's get that and see what we can do with some interesting printing inks. And so now I've been doing woodcut printmaking because I can salvage wood to make the print plates out of, and then I can use the salvaged ink. And in some cases, I'm using paper bags and whatnot to do the paper underneath. So a lot of the pieces are, soup to nuts, completely upcycled from salvaged materials.
Freaking cool.
Yeah, I feel good about it.
Where would you like to see yourself go? Do you have any goals or aspirations for the future?
I would like to make a living off of my projects. I would like to be at a point where I'm making a comfortable living from maybe not just my art, but I also run a podcast about philosophy and popular culture. So things like that. I'd like to find several projects that I can put together to earn an income so that I can spend my life working on these intellectual pursuits that I find so interesting and engaging with those same questions about humanity and our experience of the world and how we interact with those ideas that really engage us and open our minds to new things.
I got distracted.
Yeah, that's fine. I apologize.
No, it's not your
landscaping guys.
I don't remember what I was going to say. All right. You're talking about yourself. I don't know. Well, do you have any... Oh, I know what I was going to say.
Okay.
Gallery, 4th F and Friday.
Absolutely.
The next one will be October 23rd. We were saying September. It's not September. It will be October. All of the artists that I interview this month and next month, so August and September, are invited to come show at my place, which is just down the street. I live at 119th and Powell.
Okay, cool.
Come invited to show your art, meet a bunch of other artists, ton of artists, there's a big crowd that comes through. I provide free booze and food for everybody, and we paint on the walls, and we just got a stripper pole. It's kind of a crazy party.
It sounds like a blast, man. I will definitely make it.
I broke a door down this last. I have to fix that.
Okay. Well, the best parties, right?
Yeah. There's always something. So, do you have any last comments, questions, or concerns?
I think if I were going to give a last comment, it would just be, to remind people that none of us are the perfect version of ourselves that we'd like to imagine being, and so learning to embrace our mistakes means that we're able to move out into the world and to really get engaged with things that we wouldn't have access to if we let the fear stop us. There's a really great quote that I love. It's, "Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good," and that, to me, sums up the entire process of moving through your own headspace when it comes to art or the humanities or anything else. Just find a way to embrace what's not perfect, embrace the mistakes, and move forward with that.
Right on. And I do know what I was going to say.
Okay.
Because I bullshat. I didn't remember.
Okay.
I was going to ask what your podcast is and how to find it.
Sure. So the podcast is the Philosophical Chain Gang. The framing narrative device is that we are three philosophers captured by an evil steampunk supervillain who is making us debate to the death for his entertainment. We discuss pop culture and philosophy, so we just did an episode a while ago on Cylons and artificial intelligence and what that means for minds. Would an AI be aware of itself? We did an episode that was very popular for a while called The McRib and Desire, discussing how we interact with desire in a consumerist culture. So a lot of topics like that. We try and link a pop culture idea to a philosophical idea and show how philosophy has real merit in the modern world, which so often philosophy is just treated as this BS thing that people sit around and do when they feel like being hoity-toity and not really having any effect on the world. And we believe that critical thinking and media literacy are the most important things for us to start teaching people again in a modern environment that is just so clouded with misinformation and distortions. So we try and link that to things people can engage with, pop culture references, nerdy stuff, anything that people can already get their hooks into to start with. And we take that and we try and turn it into a philosophical topic, pull it out. So that's the podcast, and it's at philosophicalchaingang.com.
Philosophicalchaingang.com.
You say it 3 times, you'll never forget it, I promise.
Alright. Thank you so much for having me out. I'm sorry, everybody, about this asshole. He doesn't know he's an asshole, though. Thank you for having me out. It's been a real pleasure. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. 139, our live video blog.